Investigating the battle for the soul of mankind, we uncover the sufferings of Job with his catastrophic losses. First, we have these two witnesses. The prophet Ezekiel, who said, even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they would deliver only themselves by their righteousness, says the Lord God, in Ezekiel 14:14. And the apostle James, who said, you have heard of the perseverance of Job, in James 5:11. In the book of Job, we see evidence of Satan working to destroy him. The drama unfolded in two stages, on earth and in heaven. On earth, Job is introduced as a righteous man, blessed with wealth, sons, and daughters, and they all live in the land of Uz. Job was a prominent and affluent man. He was one of the greatest of all the people of the East. He was an exceedingly righteous man, blameless and upright. He was a man who feared God and shunned evil. As Job lived before the watchful eye of his peers, no one could justly charge Job with moral failure, because his reputation was impeccable. The scene shifts to heaven, where God asks Satan, literally, in Hebrew, the accuser, for his opinion of Job's piety. Satan answers that Job is pious only because God has blessed him, and that if God were to take away everything that Job had, then he would surely curse God. God then allows Satan to take Job's wealth, kill his children and servants, and afflict his body with boils. Job's wife prompts him to curse God and die, but he, nonetheless, praises God.
Job's tragedy. The book of Job is about an epic war, the suffering of the innocent. No city is attacked or besieged or conquered. No battles are won or lost. No oceans are sailed or nations founded or adventures recorded. The whole conflict happens on an ash heap, virtually a garbage dump, outside a village. It is an epic war, but one of inner life, a struggle to make sense of some of the deepest questions of life. The first act of the heavenly scene. Based on Job 1, God boasts again over his servant Job. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, from where do you come? So Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? And still he holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him, to destroy him without cause. The second act of the earthly scene. Job's tragic and sudden losses. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabaeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them. And I alone am escaped to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped to tell thee.
The book of Job is about human suffering that deals with the question of why do good people suffer? Although Satan wreaked havoc in Job's life on earth, the limits of his activity were clearly set by God. Satan can go only so far. Satan looks for an opportunity to do harm. Suffering is not always brought on by sins in our lives. Therefore, the book of Job teaches us that there is an aspect of human misery that is not the penalty for sin. His pains were not the penalties for wrongdoing. They were not even chastisements for correction. In Job, we see a man who God allows to be directly attacked by Satan. He is an example of faithfulness as he loses everything important to him, yet remains faithful to God. In Job, we see Satan's primary method of spiritual warfare, attempting to discredit God in man's sight. Satan cannot harm God, but he can attempt to influence how man perceives God as to whether he is unjust, unfair, or unloving. Satan causes Job to suffer unjustly in an attempt to get Job to attack God. Job and his friends wanted to analyze the suffering and look for causes and solutions. They couldn't know why Job suffered because what happened in heaven between God and Satan was unknown to them. Therefore, man is resigned to an attitude of trust and dependence on a good God whose workings man cannot fathom.